What's going on, everyone? My name is Jake, this is Where I Talk Capes, and today I am here to talk about the upcoming Clayface movie and the big Clayface news. Because last week a shortlist was announced including names like Jack O'Connell, Leo Woodall and George McKay, all in the running for the lead role in the upcoming Clayface movie. However, it was reported by Deadline today, around about 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago as I record this video, that Tom Rhys-Harry's lands role of Clayface in DC Studios' James Watkins movie, with James Gunn going on to tweet, "After a long and incredibly exhaustive search, we have finally found our DCU Clayface in Tom Rhys-Harry's. Both Matt Reeves and I were just blown away by this guy and can't wait for you to see this film, directed by James Watkins and written by Mike Flanagan." Now, first of all, massive congratulations to Tom Rhys-Harry's. It's an actor I'm not incredibly familiar with. He's not an actor I'm incredibly familiar with. He was in The Gentleman, the movie, and he was also in that White Lines on Netflix. I've not seen White Lines. I have seen The Gentleman, but I'm not, like I say, an actor I'm not incredibly familiar with. But obviously, massive congratulations to him. If James Gunn and Matt Reeves think he is the right choice, then I am inclined to believe he is the right choice. However, here's the thing that's worrying me, and here's the main topic of this video, is the inclusion there that Matt Reeves and I were both blown away by this guy. That's what James Gunn said. Am I the only person that doesn't want to see Robert Pattinson in the DCU? Am I the only person that wants these to be separate entities and separate universes? Because I have little to no interest in seeing Robert Pattinson within the DCU. For many reasons. First of all, I just want the Batman universe to be its own self-contained thing, with its own characters and its own stories and its own direction, solely controlled by Matt Reeves. And that's not to say that I think the DCU is going to be bad. I think it's going to be fantastic. However, when the Batman was introduced and when this movie became a thing, it was separate from the DCU and it was separate from what we had at that time. And a lot of people now are saying, oh, well, if we have two Batmen, it's going to be confusing. Well, like, no, it's not, because everyone knew that when Ben Affleck was in The Flash, that was the DCU's Batman, and when when Robert Pattinson was in the Batman, that's because this was this universe's thing, and it's an Elseworld story, the same way that everyone understood that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was completely different from Jared Leto's Joker. It was its own contained and separate thing. And think about the Joker. When the Batman came out, we had three separate on-screen Jokers. We had Jared Leto, we had Barry Keoghan, and we had Joaquin Phoenix. People knew that, people understood that, and that was completely fine. But now a lot of people are saying, oh, it'll be confusing to the general audience. It's like, I don't think it will. And I guess the only reason that people wanted to see it here is because Batman and Superman are now a real similar age, with Robert Pattinson and David Corenswet being, kind of similar age and similar in look and things like that. And I guess that, to many people, makes a World's Finest movie seem more fun. But I don't want this at all. For many reasons. And it's not that I don't think it would be good. That's absolutely the bottom of my list. I think if they were to fold this in with the DCU and let these characters and especially these creatives, collaborate here, I don't think this would be anything less than spectacular. But it's not what I want. I guess my main issue with folding these in together is the fact that Pattinson's Batman, at the last time we saw him, was in year 2. And the DCU's Batman is confirmed to be on Damian Wayne as the main Robin, which means we have had 3 previous full-time big main Robins, and also Stephanie Brown, yeah, Stephanie. So, by the point we begin this movie, we will already have had Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, maybe even Stephanie Brown, and Tim Drake having been served as Robin, or having served as Robins. We will have, presumably, a Red Hood about to debut at the end of this movie. I would imagine that's more than likely going to be the post-credit scene of The Brave and the Bold. We will have a Bruce who has a son who is now old enough to be Robin and a long career before this, and the Batman is in year 2. And to just say off screen, oh, we've had 3 Robins now, haha, that's an awful idea. And I've seen people say, well, why can't Pattinson just play both and we can treat them as separate universes? Because that will confuse the standard audience. That will confuse the casual audience. If we go and watch a DCU Batman and it's Pattinson and he has the Robins, and then we go and watch the Batman and he only has maybe Dick Grayson beginning as Robin in the Batman Part 3, that's going to confuse the fuck out of everyone involved that's not behind the camera. That's an awful idea. But the fact that if they do this, that just means we are skipping years and years of storytelling within the universe of the Batman, all just so we can have some corporate synergy across 2 different creators with 2 vastly different visions for this character, is a fucking horrific idea. My second main issue here, my second main sticking point here, is that Matt Reeves has this sort of idea of a heightened reality within the Batman. So with him, the first movie was, about the Riddler, and it was about, I guess, a realistic villain in the Riddler, telling puzzles and doing domestic terrorism and inspiring a revolt online and whatever. And fair enough, yeah, and I guess he's got the Joker, who, he says he's got some skin condition or whatever. It's not like he fell in acid or anything like that. But obviously in that, he has the squirrel suit and he flies at, 100 miles an hour face first into a bridge and just gets some light scars. And a bomb blows up in Alfred's face and he just has to go to the hospital for a bit and things like that. And a bomb blows up in the Batman's face and he just has to, walk it off or whatever. But that's what Matt Reeves wants to do. Matt Reeves doesn't want to completely constrict himself with the confines of reality and use that as a storytelling tool the way that Christopher Nolan did. However, it doesn't seem that Matt Reeves is entirely on board with the more fantastical elements of Batman storytelling, and it's not that didn't inspire him. He spoke quite a lot about big and fantastical stories. It did inspire him. However, that's not what he wants to do. He said, Matt Reeves even said in an interview, he's not opposed to bringing Superman into his universe, but his idea is how does he make that work within the framework he has already set up. Whereas James Gunn is going balls to the wall, comics, nonsense, fun, big, bright colours. And to a lot of people, that's not what Batman is. Batman's not big and bold and bright, but Batman can be that. And there is room for both of these interpretations to exist. So why wouldn't we want to look at both of them? As well, Matt Reeves talked about using Clayface. And Clayface has already been in the DCU. He was in Creature Commandos as the big scary mud monster shape-shifting Clayface, but Matt Reeves wants to use the sort of Silver and Golden Age interpretation of Clayface, more akin to Marvel's Chameleon. He's a murderer and a gangster who just wears different masks to hide his identity and things like that. I want to see that from Matt Reeves, and I want to see big mud monster Clayface in James Gunn's framework. Both of these versions of Batman can exist, and both of these versions of Clayface can exist, but if we are muddying the waters and we are making the both of them share a universe, it feels completely different to each other, and I think at odds with the overall storytelling of what both men at the helm of both of these projects are trying to achieve. Now, I made a whole video with the wonderful Kieran at the movies where we fan-casted The Brave and the Bold. We fan-casted the Bat family within The Brave and the Bold. We talked about who would want to be in that, and we looked at older actors because we have a Damian Wayne. We looked at actors kind of in their 40s, and I believe Kieran's was quite older than mine as well, and looking at a guy in his 50s, towards that older version of Batman. And yeah, maybe on the surface that is a little bit too reminiscent of the Snyderverse, and where Batman was that bit older than Superman, and I guess a lot of people like them to be closer in age, and I typically prefer them to be closer in age as well. It makes World's Finest stories seem so much more fun. But with what we have been told about the DCU's Batman and what we know of Matt Reeves as the Batman, they are completely opposite ends of the spectrum for what can be achievable through the medium of storytelling with this character. I want James Gunn's Batman to be the grey and purple and yellow, to be completely honest with you. I want to see that in the suit. I don't want to see just another big black armoured suit. I want fun. I want nonsense. I want something closer to the Adam West cloth suit than I do, the Matt Reeves armour. And I have nothing against the Matt Reeves armour. I think it looks incredible. But that's what he is trying to achieve. And again, we can look at the fantastical, and we can look at the over-the-top, and we can look at the exciting and the supernatural villains within Batman's rogues gallery. We can look at, I know the Court of Owls was essentially pretty much teased through the entirety of that movie. We can look at them, we can look at the Talons, and we can look at the Lazarus Pit, and Ra's al Ghul, and Poison Ivy in their full comic book glory within what the DCU is already telling us is possible. Whereas the Batman seems to want to do things that are more realistic and more grounded and more close to reality and tethered to the real world. And there is nothing wrong with that. But let them be their own things. That's what I feel on this. I love Matt Reeves as the Batman. I am so sure I'm going to love James Gunn's Superman. But they feel completely different. And the Batman within the universe of James Gunn's Superman should feel completely different, in my opinion. So whilst I know there is a lot of talk about getting Pattinson in the DCU, I am firmly against it. Now, if it happens, I don't think I would be surprised. I do still think it won't happen, though. I don't think that's... I know both of them have talked about it, and I guess the initial thoughts on this the initial way they presented these conversations is that they were sort of talking to each other to make sure they weren't standing on each other's toes with the way they were depicting Batman and what they were trying to do and who they were going to use and things like that. But I think there is the room in the market for both interpretations of the character. I think with what James Gunn has told us he wants to do with Batman, it's completely antithetical to what Matt Reeves is currently doing with Batman. It goes against the storytelling that we have through the Batman, and I just think that marrying the two for corporate synergy is just a bad idea. I don't think it will be bad, but I think it's a lot less interesting than letting both of them fulfill their visions entirely without them having to compromise with one another. So that's it from me today. Let me know what you think down below. Do you want to see Pattinson in the DCU? Do you want to see them kept completely separate? I do really want to hear everyone's opinions on these, unless they are keep Pattinson away because it's James Gunn and it's not Snyder, and like I don't go outside and I can't talk to women or men, and I need to just go outside and breathe some fresh air and probably go for a shower. Unless you're saying that, keep that away from here. But no, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share us around to all your friends. Tell them the handsome man on the internet with the good superhero opinions. Couldn't work out to say DCU or not opinions. The good DCU, the good Batman, the good Matt Reeves, the Batman epic crime saga, the DCU, the good opinions on everything. Don't forget to show all your friends this video. Like, share, and subscribe, like I said. And yeah, my name is Jake. This is Where I Talk Capes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.